What happened to the Internet Cafe? The web cafe has turned into virtually out of date in right this moment's world. In a world, a place we put on our computer systems on our wrists, carry them in our pockets as telephones and curl up in mattress with our iPads, the concept of going to a devoted location to enter the web appears quaint. Nevertheless, as soon as upon a time, the concept of the web cafe was each a contemporary and novel phenomenon. Unsurprisingly originating within the hub of tech right this moment, San Francisco and the Silicon Valley, the mid-1990s noticed a group of about 20 espresso homes outfitted with related computer systems. The place guests might faucet right into a communications community referred to as SF Internet. In line with a storied historical past published in Gizmodo, these early web cafe pioneers had been geeks and hackers, all speaking and computing with one another with aliases within the identifier of enjoyable and connection. It wasn't lengthy till the concept went mainstream throughout the Atlantic, when the primary mainstream web cafe geared in the direction of the general public, referred to as Siberia, opened in London. It supplied on a regular basis of us entry to a desktop laptop and the world large net for a small hourly price. Airliner EasyJet opened a series of client-going through web cafes throughout Europe, and the concept was shortly replicated in New York, starting the golden, if temporary, period of the web cafe. If the early days of the web cafe had been about players, geeks and web obsessives, the pre-mobile period of private computing noticed it go a bit extra mainstream. It is sensible that when folks didn't have entry to their electronic mail, their schedule or instantaneous communication by way of a cell phone as we do now, they wanted a solution to join on the go, and web cafes offered that at fairly a nominal price, normally around $1 per hour. Nevertheless, additionally they served as social hubs for a sure sort of consumer, normally excessive players and hackers, because the web cafe supplied a spot to attach with related folks, offered sooner web than was out there in lots of houses, and created a tradition of digital obsessives who felt extra at house in our online world than they did within the exterior world. The Wikipedia webpage for Siberia notes that it was thought about a semi-nerd lab room inventive know-how center and sometimes served as the positioning of after-parties for ravers, giving it an counter-cultural and various edge. By 2004, only a decade after the primary web cafe opened in London's West Finish, the BBC reported that there have been 20,000 web cafes dotted all around the globe. Nevertheless, simply as shortly because it began up, the phenomenon began to slide into decline. 10 years after the primary web cafe opened, at-home web connections had been made extensively out there, which merely eliminated the necessity to go right down to a cafe so as to verify electronic mail or make an Amazon order. As soon as cell units turned distinguished, particularly with the launch of the iPhone in 2007, the cafes turned much more redundant, as the necessity for a digital pit cease when somebody was out and about and unable to achieve their at-home connection turned more and more irrelevant. It's true that web cafes do nonetheless exist right this moment, however their popularity has modified. Whereas many individuals nonetheless discover them helpful when touring, particularly in growing nations, the place web entry in a lodge may be more durable to return by, they aren't a lot seen as part of our everyday digital lives. Sadly, additionally they have a little bit of a popularity as getting used for nefarious functions like unlawful downloading, piracy, fraud, and the web phenomenon of catfishing. It's laborious to say if in one other 10 years any web cafes will exist in any respect. If something, their quick lifespan is testimony to the shockingly quick approach that know-how modifications and progresses.